If you're in a healthy relationship with a man, can you stitch this video and talk about it?
I have to admit and say that one of the reasons why Eric and I's relationship works so well is because it was a little bit situational, if that's the correct word to use. I've talked about this in my other videos, but Eric and I have known each other since high school, but we were not into each other romantically until many years later, post high school, post us not speaking for a year, and then we got back into each other's lives. We became good friends again, blah, blah, blah. And I say the word situational because both he and I, during those experiences of having been friends since high school and going through so many years before connecting romantically, is that we had both been through separate situations where we were put in relationships that were clearly not correct for us, but we were still trying to make them work and we were still trying our hardest. And then we, of course, both individually had to reach different points for different reasons of why those relationships were no longer going to work. And I think that both of us, having had those experiences already and already having different scopes, yet similar scopes and perspectives of what it is we were then now looking for in a relationship and in a partner, is what made the two of us coming together feel so unbelievably natural and correct. And also, the best word that I've always used when talking about my relationship with Eric is the word comfortable. And whenever I say that, a lot of people think that I mean we've stagnated or we're like too consistent, or like it's always really interesting because another thing that I always tell people is that Eric and I don't fight. And when I say we don't fight, people then are like, oh, so you guys just never have any kind of conflict or any kind of disagreement, which no, of course not. Everybody's going to have conflict. Everybody's going to have disagreements, but we don't fight about disagreements. We have a disagreement. We take whatever time we need to individually process and think about and decide what it is that is our perspective about the disagreement before we come together and we talk about the disagreement. We decide what we need to do as a couple to address that disagreement, and then we move on as a couple. And so when I say that things are comfortable with Eric and I, it not only is comfortable in the sense that we work well together in terms of addressing disagreement and figuring out what to do when conflict arises, but I have never experienced knowing a person who knows me as well as he does, if that makes sense. Comfortable to me means that I can be at my most vulnerable, my most unhinged, if that's the correct word to use, my most soft, my most hard. I can be any version of myself that I've ever been with him, and I never feel judged. I never feel uncertain about how he's going to take it or how he's going to understand me. I think that is fundamentally what works about us, is that we get each other on almost like a molecular level. And I think that stems from the fact that we were lucky enough to already go through the negative experiences in our lives before finding each other. And that only aided us. Sometimes a relationship ends up coming at you right when you need it. And sometimes you have to wait for it. So you got to be patient, unfortunately.